Hello, hello,
Take that away.
I was waiting for that news to load.
hello.
We'll be right with you. We're just loading live stream.
Okay.
Where's Anthony?
Anthony's only by phone. He's not, or he's volume, voice, but not picture.
Not picture, correct.
Hey, you wanted to see that nice face.
Okay, and.
Oh yeah, nobody wants to see it. Not even my mother.
And Sean is on mute. He may have stepped away for a minute.
I'm here. Sorry.
There you are, Sean. Okay. So we're live stream now, and Mr. Chair, if you'd like to call the meeting to order, we're ready to go.
We'll call the meeting to order at exactly 2:01. Any declaration of any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
Mr. Chair, I've not been advised of any, but we do have a few attendees, so I would request that each member identify themselves, if you don't mind.
Okay, certainly.
I'm Arthur Gualazzi.
Anthony Rossi, Chair.
My name is Sean Meadis. Sorry.
Sorry, I knew that was going to happen. I'm Melinda McGregor.
Joe Greco, member.
Thank you, thank you, and Mr. Chair, we have a quorum present. I would like, I need a motion for the minutes of our last meeting.
I will move the minutes be adopted.
I'll second.
Thank you, seconder.
Sean Meads.
All in favor? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I've not been advised of any applicant wishes to have their matter deferred, so if I can bring the committee's, if I could bring the committee's attention to item 3 on your.
I think Mr. Watts, can you put your microphone on mute?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so item 3 on the agenda is an application from Aaron and Paula Watts, and Mr. Watts is in attendance today. The subject property is 72 Mount Pleasant Court. It is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned R1 estate residential rural area. Relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by permitting an abrupt in the front yard. The specific sections of the bylaw to be reviewed are 9.1.7E. Swimming pools are permitted in the rear yard only. The applicant seeks to permit an above-ground pool to be located in the front yard, approximately 60 meters from the road right-of-way. Public response, notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail into neighboring properties by posting a sign on site. It was also on mentioned on the city's website. Technical review. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for their review. There were no comments or concerns raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Building Division, Planning Division, Legal Department, Fire Services, and Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority had no comment or objections to the application. Building staff wish to remind the applicant that a building permit in compliance with applicable laws will be required. Planning staff advised that the location of the proposed pool is visually screened from the road by trees and a berm. Staff encouraged the applicant to maintain the vegetation on the property. Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority advised that the area is under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Authority with regard to Ontario Regulation 17606. Development interference with wetlands and alterations to shoreline and water courses. Any development will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Sault Ste. Marie Conservation Authority. Considerations for the committee. No objections to date on this application. Building Division, Planning Division, and Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority comments are for the information of the applicant and are not suggested conditions of approval. I would bring the committee's attention to the site plan that's with the package. And noting that while it is unusual that we have an application to locate a pool in the front yard, you'll notice by the site plan and the Google map drawing of the property, that the property is pretty much all front yard, a huge front yard, and ravine to the rear. And those are my submissions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Wa-
Wait, Mr. Watts
Okay.
might have something.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Watts, do you have anything you'd like to add to your request?
Not, well, she summed it up quite well. Yes, it's a different situation where it's mostly front yard, our garage and parking in the back. So there's not a great opportunity to do it back there because of the paved area and concrete walkway and so forth. I should have included a picture back there as to reasoning why. Our only real option is up front, but that was a little bit of neglect on my part, but it sort of shows that in the aerial, I guess, from above, but some ground
Yeah.
ones would be helpful as well. But you know, she summed up the situation quite well.
Okay, thank you, sir. So you're basically saying that this is your only alternative for the placement, correct?
It is, yes, the parking and pavement, and then there's that cliff in behind, so a lot of our backyard is all that situation I described in words a bit, but yeah, that's the case, yeah.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Any questions from committee members?
Mr. Chairman, I think Michelle explained it well when she said, most of it's front yard anyway. And with that explanation and the drawing, I certainly will, if there's not any other question from the board, I will move adoption.
Thank you, Arthur. Seconder, please. Thanks, Joe. All in favor, please? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watts.
Thank you then all.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. And you'll get a written decision in the mail early next week.
Okay then, thank you. Take care, everybody.
If I could bring the committee's attention to tab 1 on your agenda, and that would be an application A2221. It's an application from 2436112 Ontario Inc. They're the owners of 191 Case Road. It's located on the west side of Case Road, approximately 170 meters north of its intersection with Black Road. It is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned RA rural area. Relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended to permitting a garage to be constructed on the subject property prior to the main building. Specifically, sections 8.5.2 permitted use as an accessory use, it's a garage. Permit a detached garage accessory to a dwelling to be constructed prior to the construction of the dwelling. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties and by posting a sign on site. No public registered to participate in the hearing. Technical review as part of the application review. This proposal was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for their review. There were no comments or concerns raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Building, planning, legal, fire services, and Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority had no comment or objections to this application. Planning staff recommended that any approval be temporary in nature and expire after 2 years from the date of decision. And I can confirm that the applicant was satisfied with that condition. Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority advised that the area is under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Authority with regard to Ontario Regulation 17606, development interference with wetlands and alterations to shoreline and water courses. Any development will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Conservation Authority. There are no objections to the Conservation Authority comments or for the information of the applicant. I'd advise that it has been the custom of the committee in their past decisions on matters of this nature to attach a time limit. If the main building is not constructed by the expiry of the time limit attached to the decision, the owner would have to apply for variance approval and satisfy the committee of the date that a no approval is minor. It is recommended that approval of this request be conditional and that said approval expires on June 12th, 2023. And those are my submissions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from any committee members? Concerns? Do I have somebody put forth a motion for approval? Thanks, Joe, with the stipulations. Can I have a seconder?
Yes.
Thanks, Sean. Can I see approval? All in favor? Carried.
you. If I could bring your attention to add tab 2 on your agenda. Tab 2 and 3 are related, so I will actually I'll move you to tab 3 first, because we have to have a decision on tab 3 before we move to tab 2. I'm sorry, tab 3, it should be tab 5. My apologies, it's tab 5.
Tab 5, okay.
Okay, so tab 5 is application B1321. The applicant Trudy Roquetta is the owner of 8 Bluffs Drive East. It is located on the south side of Bluffs Drive East, approximately 17 meters east off Crimson Ridge Drive. The subject property is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned R3 low density residential. Intent of the applications: the applicants are seeking the committee's consent to sever the westerly 3.38 by 44.28 meters by 149.67 square meter strip from the subject property and attach it to the westerly abutting property being 4 Bluffs Drive East as a lot addition, subject to approval of minor variance application A2321. The intent of the application is to correct the existing encroachment of the home at 4 Bluffs Drive East. Notice of public hearing was issued by personal mail and by posting a sign on site. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for their review. There were no comments or concerns raised that would preclude the application from moving forward. The following circulated departments, divisions, agencies had no comment or objection: Building, Planning, Legal, Fire Services, Public Works, Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority, and Bell Canada. Building staff advised that any development will require a building permit. Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority staff advised that any development will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Conservation Authority. There are no objections. I have no objections to the request, but I would like to note that I was trying to contact the engineering department as late as just before this hearing, because there were some concerns expressed for outstanding matters by the legal department, but didn't come to the committee's attention. Having said that, though, I also don't have a comment from our engineering department, and I would suggest that any approval be made conditional on satisfying the engineering department, which is not unusual given that we've had to do that in the past when we know that Algoma Public Health would have to be satisfied, and we've attached conditions similar of that nature so that it didn't finalize without their input. Other conditions that would have to be attached were the customary conditions for a lot addition application. That would be transfer deed of land, certificate application fee, reference plan, PIN abstract, discharge, partial discharge of any encumbrance, payment of municipal taxes. Not limited to those conditions if the committee thought there were other conditions that needed to be added. So if I can draw your attention to the drawing in your plan, you'll see that it says lot 1 and 2, and you'll see that lot 1, the house at 4 Bluffs Drive, encroaches over the property line for this subject property, that being 8 Bluffs Drive. 8 Bluffs Drive is, in summary, wanting to convey a portion of their property to address that encroachment. It does not create a variance at 8 Bluffs Drive. So if I can, would the committee like to move to a motion on that application, and then we can entertain the other variants?
I can make a motion for that.
Seconded.
And that would be with engineering.
Engineering comments.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't-
Seconder.
Yeah. Was there a seconder?
All second.
Okay.
Thank you, Arthur. with the condition of engineering.
Correct.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Carried.
So I'll bring you back to tab 2. Now, Sarah Bullock is the owner of 4 Bluffs Drive East. It is located on the southeast corner of Bluffs Drive East and Crimson Ridge Drive and is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R1 estate residential and is subject to site plan control. Subject to the approval of the consent that we just approved, relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended to legitimize the location of the existing home. Specifically, section 9.7.2 requires an interior side yard of 1.8 meters. With the addition of the property that we just gave approval for consent, the applicant is seeking to reduce the easterly interior side yard from 1.8 meters to 1.3 meters. Again, notice was circulated to neighboring property owners by personal mail by posting a sign on site. Building staff wish to remind the applicant that there is an open permit for the new single-family home that is yet to be finalized. They recommended that the owner take the necessary steps to finalize this permit as soon as possible after final consent is given. The permit cannot be finalized until the transfer of property is final, so the condition reads after final consent. Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority advises that the area is under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Authority and that any development will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Conservation Authority. They do have the permit from the Conservation Authority to build the existing house. It will probably require a new site plan be submitted to the Conservation Authority, but again, that will be part of the finalizing the permit process, and that will be taken care of at that time. Considerations for the committee are there's no objections to date. Building Division and Conservation Authority comments are for the information of the applicant. In making this decision, the committee must have regard for all input received through written and verbal submissions, and those are my submissions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions from board members?
I will certainly second that if Joe wants to, because they're related to one another. Joe wants to move this, but also.
I can move it. That's fine with the conditions that have been stipulated.
Thank you. Moved by Joe, seconded by Earth. All in favor?
Thank you.
Carried.
Thank you. I'll bring the committee's attention to tab 4. That would be application B1221. An application from Ron Grunwald and Betty Ann Grunwald, civic number 1772 Third Line West. The subject property is located on the north side of the north leg of Third Line West between Lees Bay Road and Carter Beach Road. The subject property is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned RA rural area. The applicants are seeking the committee's consent to sever a westerly portion of the subject property fronting on Third Line West being 55 meters by 201 meters by 1.1 hectares approximately in size. The retained land will be approximately 0.91 hectares in size. The intent of the application is to create one additional rural area lot for residential development purposes. Again, notice of public hearing was issued by personal mail and by posting a sign on site. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for their review, and there were no comments or concerns raised that would preclude the application from moving forward. The following circulated departments, divisions, agencies had no comment or objections to this application: Building, Planning, Legal, Fire Services, Public Works, Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority, and Bell Canada. Building staff advise that any development will require a building permit. Conservation Authority staff advise that any development will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Conservation Authority. Considerations for the committee in deliberating this application: there's no objections to the request. The proposed lot creation satisfies official plan policies and the zoning bylaw. The proposed consent does not create minor variances to either the proposed or severed parcels. Customary conditions for lot creation to be attached, such as submission of transfer deed of land, parks levy, certificate application fee, reference plan, PIN abstract, Algoma public health support, discharge, partial discharge of any encumbrance, and payment of municipal taxes. And those are my submissions, Mr. Chair. I would add that the applicant is aware of the conditions that would be attached to any approval.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions, comments from board members? Can I get someone to move?
I'll move with the conditions attached.
Thank you, Melinda. Sean, are you seconding? Thanks, Sean. All in favor? Carrie?
I'll draw the committee's attention now to tab 6.
Tab 6.
That would be application B1621, an application for 1381 Second Line West. The owners Lorenzo and Eliza Merlino. The subject property is located on the south side of Second Line West between Nixon Road and Lease Bay Road. It is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned R1 estate residential and EM environmental management. The applicants are seeking the committee's consent to sever the westerly rear portion of the subject property being 45.72 meters by 135 meters and attach it to the westerly abutting property as a lot addition. The intent of the application is to increase the land holding of civic number 1375 Second Line West. Notice of public hearing was issued by personal mail and by posting a sign on site. The following circulated departments, divisions, agencies had no comment or objection to this application, being Building Division, Planning Division, Legal Department, Fire Services, Public Works, Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority, Algoma Public Health, and Bell Canada. Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority staff advised that any development will require a site plan review and may require a permit by the Conservation Authority. There's no development planned at this time, simply a lot addition. Considerations for the committee, there's no objections to this request. Customary conditions for lot addition applications to be attached, such as submission of transfer deed of land, certificate application fee, reference plan, PIN abstract, discharge, partial discharge of any encumbrance, payment of municipal taxes, and again, the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Merlino, are aware of the conditions that would be attached to any approval. And those are my submissions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions, comments from board members?
All move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Arthur. Seconded. Thank you, Sean. All in favor?
With the condition.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that ends the business or the hearing portion of our meeting. I would advise that the committee needs to move into camera now to discuss a staff matter, staff issue. And
Okay.
I thank everybody for attending. Thank you, Mr. Halvey.
Thank you, Michelle.
Motion to move into camera, Michelle?
Yes, please.
All
Can I have
move.
a- Thank you. Seconded. Thanks, Joe.
All in favor? Okay.
All in favor? Yeah. All in favor? Carrie?
We're just going to disconnect the live stream and
Okay.